This is part 2 of a speedrunning tutorial. I'd recommend watching part 1. I mean, you don't need to, as long as you're in the nether with an iron pickaxe, some blocks, and some food. In this video, we'll cover the entire nether, which has the most information, but also the coolest strats. The most important thing, by far, is finding a bastion. This will give us all kinds of goodies, but most importantly, ender pearls to beat the game. After that, we'll get blaze rods from a fortress, and we're done with the nether. But how do we find them? Sometimes you'll spawn directly above, and they're buried. Well, bastions have a lot of entities. We're actually going to use the F3 screen to find the bastion. So if you look in the top left, the row where it says E, this is showing how many entities are on your screen. The right side of the slash shows how many entities are in your loaded area. The left side shows how many you're looking at. So if you watch, there's 50 in this direction, but only 6 over here. It's as simple as looking where the entities are. That is where your bastion is. But in the real world, the entities aren't distributed that drastically. There's 40 over here, 20 over here, 40 over here. So we use a cool trick to narrow this down. All you do, lower your FOV. Now we can pinpoint exactly where those entities are. There's 5 in this direction, but 50 over here. This is the basic premise. If you're all the way down on your FOV and you see 30 in a direction, there's almost always a bastion. There are a couple caveats. Sometimes your F3 screen will say there's 50 entities in this direction, but it'll be a false spike because of the Crimson Forest. You're not going to be able to E-ray bastions unless you go to your options, video settings, and your entity distance is at 500%. If it's on 50, you're only going to be able to detect mobs within a couple chunks of you. There's a couple other tricks to finding bastions though. For example, I know that bastion mobs load in before all regular mobs, meaning as soon as I enter the nether, I can pause my game and see the entities load in. It'll load bastions before all other things. So we've got 200 entities here. We've definitely got some bastions. There's one this direction, another this direction, another this direction. Oh my gosh, we have tons. So what speedrunners will do is they pause their game as soon as they enter the nether, and they'll watch this number. Remember, the right shows you how many are in your loaded area. If this number spikes up by 20 or 30, a bastion just loaded in, and you can immediately do your scan thing and look for that 30 or 40 number. Another cool thing you can do, you can actually change your render distance. So all the bastions I've located are within 20 chunks of me. Let's say I have 2 spikes of 40 and I want to know which one's closer. Well, let's just turn it down to 10 and see if any spikes are still there. We're getting 1 in this direction, so I'd probably go this direction instead of any of the other because this bastion is probably closer. There's actually only a couple more things you need to know before becoming a bastion finding expert, namely how they generate, because there's a pattern to their generation in the nether. This image represents the coordinates of a Minecraft world. So the center is 0, 0. This is generally where you'll spawn in. The green areas represent where bastions can spawn. Red is where they can't. We're mainly concerned with these 4 green squares. We call these the 4 quadrants. They go from roughly 0, 0 to 400. The reason this graph is important is because we generally don't want to stay on like the Z-axis or the X-axis because it's mostly red. There's not going to be a bastion. What does this actually mean for a Minecraft world? When you spawn in, don't go straight in one direction. You want to go diagonal into a quadrant. I should also probably go over coordinates real quick. So the first one is X, middle is Y, last is Z. You can tell this because it's in order, X, Y, Z. If you look at the center of your screen, you'll see these colorful lines. Red is associated with the first one. Blue is associated with the last one. The way I like to do it is the direction they're pointing, it goes positive. So if I follow the red arrow, this first number is going to go up. If I follow the blue arrow, this number will go up. You generally don't need to look at the middle number as much. This is the Y height. This is up and down. This is the green arrow. So up goes up. Then it works the same in the other direction. So if I go this way, the first number will go down. If I go this way, this last number will go down. While this is useful to know, you almost always want to just bank off of your E-ray. This is what it's called, E-ray. I see 50 in this direction. I'm just going to follow this directly. The reason this graphic is so important is because if you get to like 300 on either of your coordinates and you still haven't seen a bastion, one probably just didn't spawn there. But another trick for looking around, if you turn your FOV all the way to Quake Pro, you can actually see more of the nether. This is because the fog in front of us is actually rendered in a straight line from a player. This is important because the distance from here to the center is shorter than the distance from us to the diagonal. Turning our FOV up makes it so that we can see farther into the diagonal. So look over here where my cursor is. If I turn my screen, you can kind of see the fog turn as well. We can see the lava on the corner of our screen, but if we look directly at it, it's gone. You see that? Kind of cool. So what speedrunners will do is they'll turn their distance to Quake Pro and kind of turn in a circle looking at this very edge to see if they see a bastion or a fortress. Oh, look at that. there's a bastion over there. So as a recap, when you spawn into a world, immediately pause your game, make sure F3 is open. Watch this number. We're looking for it to jump up by 30 or so. It's already at 30, so there's probably not a bastion here. I'm just going to increase my render distance by 5. Now, the numbers won't immediately go up. You kind of have to update the game, so just unpause and pause real quick. Oh, it went up by 50. Maybe there's a bastion. Let's see. Let's scan. Is there a bastion anywhere? Not looking like it. There's like 27 over there, but it's probably not a bastion. We're in a crimson forest. Let's increase it a little more, see if we see a bastion. Oh, look at that. There's 30 over there now. Maybe a bastion. 35 over there. Probably a bastion. Okay, I think I'm liking the spike in this direction. Let's see if we got it right. That was a false positive, so it didn't look like there was a bastion really anywhere close to us. So this wouldn't have been a great world. The bastions were pretty far away. But you might be thinking, how do I traverse over the nether? Are there any rules? Not really. It's kind of tricky to navigate the nether. You'll just get it better as you go. The only rule I think is useful is when in doubt, go up. The higher parts of the nether are generally more open. Also, since you're so high up, if you're in a boat and go off the edge, you won't take any fall damage. There's actually a few cases where you will take fall damage. Minecraft is just really weird. There's just a couple heights that if you drop from, your boat will break and you'll die. So what I'd recommend is right before you hit the ground, you just hop out of your boat and you're guaranteed to never die. But other than that, you know how to find a bastion. I'd recommend going into a couple worlds in creative and just see if you can find one. For me, I just load a new world, make sure you're in creative mode, and then when you've logged in, as long as you're not looking at a block, you can go /set_block space and then press the tab button 3 times, space, type POR, and then tab 3 more times to get to nether portal. You'll just instantly go to the nether and you can do your entity check thingy, see if there's a bastion. So I'm not getting any... Oh, there was a spike. Is there one? Oh, over here. Probably this direction. So I'd probably go into spectator, fly it this way. Uh-oh, it's not looking good. Oh, another thing. Bastions will never spawn in basalt biomes. I should have mentioned that. But since we're going through a basalt biome, maybe there's a bastion over here. So then maybe a good way to keep track of stuff is go to edit and rename your world like no. And then you can kind of keep track of what worlds you found a bastion on. Let's do one more. It's kind of hard to find bastions if they don't spawn super close to you, so sometimes you'll just get screwed over by worlds. Let's see. Any spikes? Any spikes? Ooh, there's a spike. Oh, there's totally a bastion this way. 100%. Almost guaranteed. There's a fortress. And boom, bastion. So this one I could go rename. Yes. If you get like 5 yeses, that's probably good enough to move on. But let's talk about bastions. How do we deal with them? Once you get to one, the most important thing by far is just identifying what type of bastion it is. There's 4 types of bastions. This first one, it's called bridge because it's got this massive bridge. It's the only bastion with this giant pile of gold in front, and it kind of looks like a pig face if you look at it hard enough. Next one is called treasure because it's got this big box out the back. This is where a pile of treasure is. That's where it gets the name from. It has these like lava moat thingies and then 2 towers out the back. Our last 2 look fairly similar, but this one is stables. You can tell it's stables because it has this stables portion where the hoglins spawn. And then out the front, we have 3 towers. The last one, though, only has 2 towers. It's called housing because out the front, these are housing units. So instead of stable units, we have housing units. There's like this big open courtyard in the front, and then 2 towers in the back. So what I'd recommend you do is download this practice map. I'll have a link in the description. I mean, it's up to you whether you want to download something from the internet. You should always be careful what you're downloading, but this is the link I and many other people have used. I think it's pretty safe. You just click on the zip file and it'll download that on your computer. And then to get it into your Minecraft world, you can go options, resource packs, open folder. This will take you into the .minecraft folder. So if we go back one directory, click on .minecraft, there's this save section. This is where we'll put the actual world file. So in your downloads folder, you should have a zip file. This is the one we just downloaded. You can right click on it and go to extract files. If you don't have the option to extract files, you'll probably need to download WinRAR, and I'll put a link to that in the description too. And now we have this world folder. This is actually a Minecraft world. But since we extracted it, you just want to double click and there's actually a folder in a folder. This is the one we want to like Control X or right click and cut. And then we can go back to our .minecraft folder into saves, just paste it. Since I already have the world, though, it's asking me to replace it, so I'm just going to cancel that. So if all goes right, you should have this thing, Llama's Bastion Practice 3 point whatever. When you load into the world, you'll see this on the left. There's the settings button. I would just change a couple things. This kind of picks what bastion you're going to spawn at. I would set this to random. Then on this mycelium block, I would click disable terrain. And then from here, you can just click start, go in a spectator or creative mode, and just tell me what bastion is this. What is this one? It's treasure. Nice. Oh, to move on or leave the next one, if you have an iron pickaxe, you can just throw it and it'll send you back to the beginning. I think you always start with an iron pickaxe, but if you go to the right side of this, right click, this is like your loadout one, so you can kind of pick and choose the items you want and just put a pickaxe in here. Click save, and now the next time you load in, you'll have this same hotbar. So what is this one? This one is bridge. It's got the bridge thingy out front. This one is, oh, what is it? It's stables. The stables is the only one that spawns naturally with hoglins, and it has, you can kind of tell it's stables because it has these flat walls as opposed to housing, which here, let me check housing real quick. As opposed to housing, which looks kind of similar, the edges of this are very rugged. So housing has the housing units, stables has the stables units, housing has this center chest and open area at front that no other bastion has. This one is also housing. We just spawned on top of the housing units. This one is bridge. I can tell it's bridge because I'm on the underside of the bridge. Sometimes you'll spawn in through the back here and it's kind of hard to tell. But now that you have a basic idea of what bastions are, let's make it a little bit more tricky. Turn on terrain. If you make sure the spawn point is on terrain and let's set it maybe 50 blocks away, now it gets kind of tricky. What bastion is this now? This is the problem with speedrunning. Sometimes all you'll see are tiny slivers and you have to know which kind of bastion it is. So a really good practice tip is just fly around bastions and kind of identify key features. This one, I know it's stables because there's 3 towers to it. Stables is the only one that has 3 towers. So if I look at it, there's this bottom stable section. Look at that. This one, it's behind a wall. I can do my E-ray thing though. Let's see. Oh, is it this way? Oh, look, it's this way. What bastion is this one? I'll just fly around. This one is treasure. Treasure's the only one that has these massive flat walls. So if I fly in, we have the giant pile of treasure at the bottom. What about this one? Do you know what this one is? I can kind of tell because the back side of it, this is, so with bridge, there's like this back section, which is like the mini bridge, and then the front section has this massive bridge. So I can kind of tell that it's bridge. Also, it's like the most wide bastion, so I could kind of tell what that is. If you want to get really detailed, like I've studied like the bottom sections of bastions. So if you gave me, what is it? Like this angle, I could tell you that it's a bridge bastion. Okay, once you've done that a couple times, let's talk about routing. The basic idea is we want all the gold and all the piglins in one spot so we can trade as quickly as possible. In the case of bridge, it's pretty simple. We're gonna come here and mine all of the blocks except for one. Now there might be an occasional piglin on the bridge here that's angry at you. Just turn your ingots and, your blocks into ingots, chuck them. The guy's not gonna bother you anymore. Oh, look at that. They're coming to pick up the gold. Once we have all the blocks but one mined, we can turn it into ingots and make ourselves a helmet. This will just make it so these guys won't be angry at us anymore. They're still a little bit angry because they saw us mine the gold, so you can just chuck them another little piece. But mine the last gold block and make sure you have this and your gold on your hotbar. You can chuck them another gold if they're angry at you. And we're just gonna run down the center of this hallway. Now there might be an occasional hoglin that's angry at you. Don't worry, just use the lava bucket to kill him. If you don't have a lava bucket, you're just gonna have to be a master dodger. Up on the right side, this first gap between the 2 lava falls, this is where we wanna be. We wanna place a block on the pillar, jump to it, up to this ledge, and then break this block in front of us. Now we have access to this hallway. So it's on the right side, and then just how we're on the right side, we're gonna take the first right down this hallway and go as low as we can until we're at this point. Now from here, we just wanna make a piglin hole. So I'm gonna put the pigs right here. So I'm just gonna place 2 blocks like this. Now the piglins are gonna go in that hole. Actually, this guy, you can go in that hole. We're gonna place 1 block on the side though. This will just make us safe. From here, we can get all the piglins in the area to come over to us by breaking the gold block that we kept. Now you can watch as they all flood down. You can just chuck them the gold. Boom. We're totally good. Then you can turn the remaining gold block you have into ingots. This is like our safety gold. So we're going to take it as we go to the top to loot the chests. So bridge is kind of unique in that the center part is always the same, but the right or the left and the right sides can be either tall or short. In this case, we got 2 tall ones. It has like the triple chest. It's called a triple chest and has like the overhang. This is the tall section. So once we got our piglins in the hole, our job is just to loot the right and left side. So I'm going to go over here, and all we're really taking is crying obsidian, string, and any gold armor that you don't have. So I don't have pants. We also want obsidian, string here, crying obsidian, and that's pretty much it. You can take extra gold if you want, but don't take the enchanted books or anything like that. If there's any stray guys, honestly, you should probably just chuck them some gold, but I didn't really care, so I just killed them. Now we're going to go to the other side. I like to just mine this one block, and then we can walk along this way until we come to this big gap. We're actually going to make this jump. It's super easy, though. You can make it 100% of the time by doing one simple thing. So if you line yourself up on these 2 blocks, so it's like you're going to land on the edge of this one right here, and you sprint the whole time, as long as you press spacebar as you're falling here, you'll make the jump 100% of the time. So I just line myself up, sprint, spacebar, and I made it 100% of the time. Super easy. We're going to loot this side. There might occasionally be some angry pigs, though, so you can do one of 2 things. You can chuck some gold on the ground and then loot the chests. Or what I like to do is you can dig next to the chests, place a block above you, and then mine the block directly under the chest, and now we can open it and the guys shouldn't get angry at us. You might occasionally get them angry at you, but in that case you can just toss them some gold in the chests or gold on your hotbar. Sometimes there'll be like gold sword, you can just chuck it out of the chest and that'll distract them so you're not going to die. Then we've looted the right and left sides, and I just need to make my way back. You can either make this jump or play it safe and place a couple blocks. And then instead of going up, I know some people get lost and go up there. We just want to hug, like bank on this wall all the way down until we reach all of our loot. Look at all of this. We have like infinite loot, dude. From here, it's like the main thing is inventory management. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have 2 slots of pearls. This will just make it so you can get more than 16 because you probably need more than that. Also, make sure you have 2 slots for string. You want more than a stack of string, ideally. And then you can get rid of things like leather, quartz, fire charges, maverick cream, single block, double block, stuff like that. You'll just get better at this as you go on. What I like to do is to make sure I get all of the trades is just elevate them. So I place 1 gravel block. You see I just picked up a whole bunch. And then a block on top so that they can't get out. What we're looking for is at least 12 pearls, at least 10 obsidian, so we can make a portal to leave, and some string to kill the dragon. In this case, we have everything. We're good to go. And then you can throw your pickaxe. Look at that. I did everything in 5 minutes. Hopefully you can do it faster with a bit of practice. Next up is treasure, the one with all of the treasure at the bottom. We're actually never going to use this because there's just a ton of lava everywhere. It's super confusing, hard to use. We're actually going to start our route at these 2 gold blocks on the bridge here. It's not called bridge. I know some people get confused even though there's a bridge. This one is treasure. The basic idea with this one is we start the route here, make our helmet here, and then run up these 2 towers. And at the top of the towers, you can actually see on the back, there's a whole bunch of gold. So we're going to make our piglin hole at the very top of the towers. You either drop down from the top onto the gold blocks, and then you can place 2 blocks to keep yourself safe. Or sometimes you'll start from the bottom. In that case, you just go 3 blocks in and pillar up until you get to here. Mine this block, and then you can keep pillaring up until you're at the gold block and nobody can get mad at you. Now, I mean, they'll get mad at you, but they can't kill you. There might be an occasional crossbow dude, though, so you might have to make yourself a backing so that you don't get knocked back into the lava. But we can turn our block into ingots, chuck those on the ground, and this guy isn't going to bother us as we mine our second gold block. Now that we have all the gold here, we're going to run all the way up these staircases. Also, I didn't do it here because I was pretty confident, but make yourself a golden helmet just so the pigs don't get angry at you. If you feel confident enough, you don't need to make a gold helmet like I did here. You can just chuck gold to keep them distracted, but I'd recommend a gold helmet. So we go right, straight. Oh, don't be angry at me. And then straight. Once we're at the top, so where this basalt is, make sure you mine this block. It just makes it easier for the piglins to pathfind up to here. And then once we're at this point, we can go down to this very edge, connect the 2 sides, and then head up this direction. Chuck a gold block here so they don't get angry at you and kill you. Now, this is where we're going to make the piglin hole, always. There's might be a hole there occasionally, so I'm just going to fill that in. But normally, you just need to place 1 block here, and you've made a piglin hole. So chuck all of your gold in there, and now we get the rest of the gold. So directly in front of you, you mine these 3 blocks, and there's a chance for a gold block to be in these 3 locations, as well as upper left, lower right. And that's pretty much all you need to memorize. We're gonna mine all of these gold blocks, turn it into gold, and then go up and to the other side. We just go up instead of down to the other side, just so that the guys don't kill us. And it's the exact same on this side too. So we mine these 3 locations, lower right, upper left. You won't always get gold blocks, as you can see. If there isn't a gold block, you'll see this, what is this? Cracked, polished blackstone bricks. That just means like a gold block didn't generate there. So we're just gonna take these gold blocks and then head to the other side. These guys should follow us underneath the passageway that we created. You can chuck that in there. And then get all my other gold blocks. Hopefully the guys show up soonish. It might take a little bit for them to pathfind. Are they coming? Oh, they are. Don't kill me. Okay, once you've got all the guys there, you can keep some gold on you, or just like an axe if you want to kill the guys that are down here. And then we're just going to loot these 2 sections. You only have to worry about these 2 rooms. The room with the 2 chests. Get some string, and then the double chest over here. And that is the entire route. We're just gonna go back to the hog, or not the hoglins, the piglins like last time. I'm gonna place a gravel just to elevate the trades and a block on top so they can't escape. I can walk into the corner and pick up all my trades. This bastion though, there's a lot of variability into like where the gold blocks spawn. Oh, I missed one here. If you don't get all of the trades you need, which again is like you need the 12 ender pearls at least, some string to kill the dragon, and 10 obsidian to make a portal to get out of the nether. If you don't get all of that, there are some backup blocks, and they're pretty easy to remember. So where these stairs are on both sides, you just mine straight forward on the stairs, and there's going to be a backup block. With the ones on the right side, it's directly in front of the stairs, but on the left side, it's directly in front of the stairs, and then up. And then here's your backup block. So same on this side, it's directly in front of the stairs, and then up. So in this case, we got the cracked instead of the actual gold block. But that's the entire bastion. I'm just gonna go back here, pick up all my loot. Oh, I got my pearls. In this case, it's just a dead run because I didn't get enough pearls. But we finished everything in 5 minutes. Solid. If you haven't started practicing these, I'd recommend just starting to practice instead of watching them all in one go. I think it's easier to remember things if you're doing them as you go. But that being said though, the next one is housing. This routing can start in one of 2 locations. You could either start at the bottom here or at the top. If you start at the bottom, you might get occasionally screwed over with a whole bunch of lava everywhere. In that case, you can be a madman and do some crazy bridging. But if there's lava here, I'd go to the top, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. But if there isn't lava everywhere, we're gonna start the route down here at this chest. So if you have a good enough axe and they're not close enough to you, you can break it. They'll get angry. Now, the most important thing is knowing like where to run. Sometimes it'll be hard to see the towers in the background, but you're gonna wanna make sure before you break the chest, probably know where you're gonna run. So I'm gonna run towards the tower this way. I've broken the chest. They're all angry at me just for actuality's sake. I'm gonna go into survival. We're gonna place 1 block here, right next to the chest, and then a block to keep ourselves safe. From here, we just mine 3 blocks in front of us so that we open up into this passageway, and then you can let them all chase you. And then directly on the right, there's like a hidey hole that you can get into. Sorry, I kind of had to do things fast because they were murdering me. But then you go down 1, 2, 3, forward until you hit the gold block, and then directly on your left, this is where you make your hole. And all of the guys should go down into the hole, and you can just chuck them the gold. Then we go forward until we see the one at our head height, and from here we go right, there's gold. I mean left, there's gold, right, there's gold. These are all of the gold blocks in the entire bastion, or at least on the lower section. So I'm gonna check all these guys the gold, get this little bit of gold. It's just kind of repetitive. The best way to learn bastion routing is just to watch people do it and then see if you can do it. Now that they have all the gold, it's probably time to sort your inventory. Maybe eat some food if you're low on health like I was. But now we place 2 blocks here. This just seals in our trades, and we go up back to loot. What I like to do is break this block and this block, and then place 1 more under me just so that I can access the trades here. And then I also have a staircase on the way back. Once we've done this, we can check the chest that we looked over, get all of the useful stuff out of this. We've got our pearls, we got our obsidian, and we got our string. We're totally good to leave. Boom. If you're starting from the top, it's a little bit different. You got to play a little bit more ballsy. You're just going to hit a guy and run down the staircase. So this is a bit tricky. I mean, it's just practice, like getting used to these bastions. We're going to keep running down until we see the first opening. And then we take our first right, take a left, and then take another right. And if you notice, this is where we dug in last time. You can always tell because there's a little hole. This is where we always hide in. It's super easy to get into. Place a block above you, you're totally safe. It can be a little bit confusing with this bastion. Right here is the heart of the bastion. So this is where we ran down from. And then this is where the chest was from earlier. So I would honestly just like walk around this bastion and try to get used to it. This is the heart of the bastion. We're always going to start from the top. I'll just like run through this one more time just so you can kind of get used to it. We go down, to the right, left, right, and then we're here. You can also just like directly drop through here if you want and tank some fall damage, and then you can still get in your hidey hole. But then it's exactly the same. So 1, 2, 3, forward. As soon as we see the block, piglin hole, forward until we see one at head level, left, right. These are all the gold blocks. If you don't get all of your trades immediately, or you want more obsidian, you can just run the staircase in reverse all the way back to the top and loot these chests. You can, same principle applies. You do like the dig down next to it, place a block, and now you can access all of the goodies. But after that, that's it. The last bastion we got is stables, which is probably the most confusing. It looks sort of similar to housing, the one we were just at, but this one's really hard, not because it looks crazy or anything, but because there's the most variability. In all the other bastions, it mostly generates the same every single time. But in this case, there's 3 towers here, each with a top half and a bottom half that you can really only see from the side. The top half can have either a tall, medium, or short tower. So this is what they look like, either a tall, medium, or short tower. And then if we just fly around to the back, the lower section also has 3 parts. So there's the right, left, and center. The center is always the same, just kind of like bridge, but the left and right can generate differently. You might have heard the term good gap and bad gap when it comes to speedrunning. That's referring to like on this lower section. You see how there's the gap here? See how this is only a 1 tall gap? 1 tall is good. A good gap basically means there's gold at the bottom of this section. A bad gap is 2 tall, and it means that there's no gold at the bottom. So the funny thing about this bastion is if you don't get a good gap, like this 1 block tall thing, there's not gold in the entire bastion, and you can't route it. Technically, if you get a tall tower like this, there is a couple gold blocks in the top there, and you can learn bastions on that, but I'm not going to go over that. This is just introduction. There's tons of different bastion rounds that you can look into. These are just the basics to get you through a run. With this bastion, we always route from the very bottom middle of this entire thing. So you're going to go into the stables portion. We're actually never going to use the stables portion, even though there are some gold blocks. They spawn very randomly, and it's not very consistent. One easy to tell like what direction you're looking is by using these pillars. You see how there's 2 on this side and 1 on this side? If there's 2 pillars on your right, you always just go forward. This is where we want to, like, this is where the 3 towers are. So we go all the way down to the bottom where this chest is. There's always going to be a chest here. This is where the route starts. We place a block here and jump up. This just makes it so that, like, no piglins can, like, murder us as we go here. So put on any gold armor that you get from this place. Nothing's going to be able to kill you. And then we run up these stairs. From here, we check to see if it's a good gap or bad gap. But we don't actually need to go outside and look to see if the gap is actually there. All we have to do is mine this block. You see how there's kind of like a C here? Almost like a handle looking kind of thing. If you mine in the middle of that handle, if it's air, that's a good gap. We can go in there and get all of the gold. If there wasn't air behind that, that's a bad gap. So you just mine this block. In this case, it's a good gap. So I'm going to go into it. You just mine the rest of the handle, and then you have a perfect staircase up into your good gap. Then we just want to go as low as we can until we see this formation. I don't know how else to explain it other than until you see something that looks exactly like this. It'll generate exactly like this every single time. So from here, you're standing on 2 blocks. You can go to the other 2 that you're standing on and turn around. Then place 2 on the 2 that you're just standing on and 1 next to it. So you just go 1, 2, 3. You're totally safe. No piglins can get to you from above. You go 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2. From here, mine 1 more block, and this is where your piglin hole is. Then we can mine adjacent to it here, and there's a chance for gold blocks to spawn in these 4 locations. We got 3 out of the 4 this time, so that's pretty good. Then we mine these gold blocks. Sorry, I'm realizing there's a lot of memorization to bastions, but stick with me. We mine the 3 gold blocks, mine this so that any piglins that were following us can go into the hole, chuck them some gold. But also, there's a whole bunch of piglins up here, so you can mine the block, and they'll fall down into the hole. You can chuck them the rest of the gold, but if you notice, we only got 4 gold blocks from this. That's not ideal. There's a couple more, so... Uh-oh, I wasn't supposed to do that. Make sure you're on the edge, so you don't fall in, and then seal off the original pathway so nothing can get to you. Also, there might occasionally be an extra piglin down there. You can seal them off or chuck them some gold or kill them, just however you want to deal with them. The point is, once we have our piglins in here, we get all of the other gold blocks, and it's pretty easy to remember. Under this lantern, so in the very center of like this 3x3, we just mine down until our feet are at gold level, and there's just gold all around our feet. And then in the direction of our piglin hole, up there, we just mine diagonally, and there's a chance for 1 more gold to be in this location. So I would mine this, place a block so it comes to me, and then we can take the rest of our ingots and just chuck them in this corner, and the piglins will start trading. That's the entire route if we just run back where we came from. You remember how there's like 2 sides to a bastion? This side was a good gap. If we go to the other side, the way we check for a good gap on the other side is we just go up the stairs and mine this block at the top of the stairs. If there's air behind it, it's a good gap. In this case, it was a bad gap and we got nothing. A good gap on this side looks just like this. You go straight down these staircases. It's identical. You just start from a different position. So we keep going down until we see the 2, 2. We go 3, 2. Here's our piglin hole. Mine these 4 for our gold blocks. Release the piglin in here. Release the piglins from there. Seal ourselves off. And then we go down and get the rest of our gold blocks like this. Chuck them in the corner. That's our whole route. While you guys are trading down there, I'd recommend going to the top of the bastion because there's going to be a whole bunch of chests. So with the tall section, there's 3 chests at the top. With the medium section, there's a chest at the top, which is right here, and a chest at the bottom. And then if it's the short section, there's a chest only at the bottom. So you just can go to all of the different sections, get all the chests. We're mainly just looking for obsidian, so I would just come up here, check for obsidian, go over this side, check for obsidian, and then we can just make our way back down. So, oh, I'm all over the place. We make our way back down to the center, and then in this little nook is the staircase that we came up through, so we can go back to the little handle that we mined, and all of our pigs should be done with their trading. Oh yeah, look at all this. Look at all of this goodness. Got our pearls. They still have 16 gold to trade. So that's pretty much it. One last thing with bastion routing is knowing how to quick loot. I wouldn't even recommend doing this, but I know a ton of people are going to ask in the comments. There's not really a tutorial for it online. If you want to quick loot, I would just recommend double clicking. It'll pick up everything in the whole stack. But if you want to do it the fancy way, you can hold shift, you press a hotkey, double click, press a hotkey. Honestly, this is pretty difficult and hard to get used to. It'll probably take a long time to do it for the first time, but it's just like a sandwich. Hotkey, double click, hotkey. You just have to do it really fast though. For me, I use my offhand, so I go offhand, double click, offhand. I think the best way to loot by far though is just double click. You can hover over it, press shift and then double click and it'll go into your inventory. That's a super quick way of looting. Now that we're done with our bastion, we need to find a nether fortress. And this is actually way easier than the bastion. This is probably my favorite thing I've ever learned while speedrunning. I think it's so cool because we're gonna find a fortress using this spawner. So if you hold shift and press F3, you'll get this pie chart in the bottom right. This displays a lot of things about the game, but we can manipulate it to show us if there's a spawner in our loaded area. The way we do this is we click the number associated with tick first. So in my case, it's 5 right now. Then level, entities, block entities. If you ever mess up or want to go back to the beginning of the pie chart, just press 0 a couple times. So for me, I clicked 5, 1, 1, 3. If you've done it right, you should see like a blue turquoise thingy. This pie chart is showing us all of the block entities in our loaded area. The blue turquoise section are spawners. If you don't have a spawner on your screen, all you want to do is increase your render distance until that spawner appears. The way you do this, you can go into your options and increase it by 1 every time, or there's just a simple hotkey. You hold F3 and press F. It'll increase it by 1. So for me, we're at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It appeared from 15 to 16. That's important because we want to go 1 below that. You can do this with the same F3F thing, except you hold shift this time and it'll go in reverse. Now that I'm at 15, you'd think the turquoise thing would disappear because it wasn't there when we were at 15 last time. Well, Minecraft is a little bit weird in like remembering what it's loaded. So we actually have to go like 3 or 4 below it and refresh the pie chart. So you just turn it off and back on. And now Minecraft is like, oh yeah, of course there isn't a pie chart. I remember now. There's no pie chart. Then we can go back up to that 15, and now we know that if we increase our render distance by 1, the spawner will be located. What we can now do is hold F3 and press G will show chunk borders. So we're just going to test 1 chunk in each direction to see if it's in that direction. So I'm going to go across this chunk border. Is it this way? No, it's not this way. Is it this way? No. Is it this way? No. Then it must be this way. So if I cross over this chunk border, the spawner should appear, which it does. That means there's a spawner 15 chunks in this direction. But if you think about it, the way Minecraft loads chunks is in like a square around you. At least in this version, it's different in newer versions. But in this version, it loads it in a square around you. So it could be any one of these chunks off in front of us. Now we use our knowledge of quadrants and where the spawner can actually be. You can also just double check your measurements. So I'm going to travel this way, and if I don't see the spawner or the fortress, maybe I come over here and do the same thing. Is it still here? Oh yeah, it's within how many chunks? It's within 8 chunks of us. So I'm going to go down a couple, refresh, back up to 7. Now we cross over chunk borders. Is it this way? No. Is it this way? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so it's 7 chunks in this direction. Oh, look at this. Here's our fortress, and right over here is our spawner. Like, this thing is so cool. Only caveat with this, there is a bastion that also has a spawner, so sometimes you'll be detecting this bastion because it has the magma spawner. So you have to come down here and break it and redo your PIDAR is what it's called. You do your PIDAR scan, or the run's just dead and you restart. But now that we're in the fortress, there's a couple key things. I mean, first of all, put on your fire resistance so you don't die. But second, sometimes you might find the fortress and end up in a hallway like this, and you're like, okay, what direction do I go to find the spawner? First, we need to understand that there's 2 parts to a fortress. This open section, like this, where there's no roof, and the closed section, like this, that does have a roof. First, we need to understand there's 2 parts to a fortress. This open section, which has the blaze spawners, and this closed section, which does not. You want to get out of here. We always transition from the closed section to the open section with this like center dot lava thingy. If you're in this open section, you always want to get to that lava dot center thing. And there's a couple rules that you can follow to solve the maze of this nether fortress. If you see stairs like this, always go up these stairs. But if there's stairs with nether warts, always go down. So you go up regular stairs, down netherwart stairs. So you can also enter through the back like this. You always go forward through these following the downward staircase. If you find any balconies, you follow the direction of the balcony. So this balcony is pointing this direction, so I follow this one. Oh look, there's another balcony pointing this direction. Let's go over here. Okay, staircase up, still go up. And now we found the center lava dot thing. I think that's so cool. You can find the starting generation of any fortress by following those key rules. Up regular stairs, follow the balconies, and through netherwart stairs. we want to be towards the open portion of the fortress because this is where the blaze spawners are. There's always 2 blaze spawners at any fortress. There's not as cool tricks to find these other than you can kind of think the way a fortress generates like a tree. This is the trunk of the tree, and the closer you stay to the trunk, the more likely you are to find a blaze spawner. So you want to stay towards like a ton of intersections and close to the closed portion of it. Sometimes you might run into wither skeletons. Don't worry. Very simple way to deal with them. Pillar up 1, 2, 3 blocks. They will jump on the ledges and you can punch them off. Super, super simple. Other than that, we just want to stay at the blaze spawner and kill blazes until we get 6 blaze rods at least. Blazes have a 50% chance of dropping, and it kind of just depends how confident you are with speedrunning. Maybe your first run, try and get 8 rods or something. You can also get blazes to spawn more often by opening the spawning spaces, so you can just take your pickaxe and mine these things. You can also do something a little bit more dangerous. If you have some extra beds, you can use a bed to open up the spawning space. All you'll do is place a block right here so that we don't destroy the spawner. Place 2 blocks like so, and a bed so that the head of the bed is directly above this block. If it's not directly above it, you're gonna blow up the spawner. That is the most important thing. The explosion begins from the bed. This is the only thing that counts. So as long as this is over the block that's above the spawner, and this block has a high blast resistance, aka it's stone, so if I were to use netherrack, it wouldn't work. Just make sure you use like stone. Nether brick would work as well. You can detonate the bed and it will open up a ton of spawning spaces for blazes to spawn. Just make sure you take care of the fire, and then you can even just extend the platform so you can kill them with ease. That's it. Just make sure you're eating food pretty often. Try not to get hit by the wither skeletons. Try to avoid skeletons. And if you're wanting more blazes and you're not getting a ton at your spawner, you can actually lower your render distance to get all of the mobs to spawn closer to you. I'd recommend dropping it to 5 and hoping for some mobs to spawn around. Congrats! That's everything you need from the nether. In the next part, we'll go over the end, killing the ender dragon, finding the stronghold, all of the cool stuff. Man, while making this video, I didn't think it would ever end, dude. So much to memorize with bastions, but if you can learn it all, you're well on your way to getting an epic speedrun. Hope you guys have a super epic day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!